this is exactly where Trevor Jacob crashed his plane. Down here on the coordinates, you can see 34.82 by 119.96622. So the trail over here on the left-hand side where he was picked up in Burrow Canyon, as well as Bald Mountain, and intentionally so. And I'm going to get into that right away. Yep, that's me, Nathaniel Schultz, and this is my YouTube channel. I share a lot of my cross-country adventures, try to be informative, and just share a lot of the fun that I have. I work hard, and I play hard, and hope that this channel inspires you to do the same. I am somewhat of a nerd whenever it comes to geography. Loved it since I was a kid in school. I am a private pilot now and love taking cross-country trips, love flying by land features, and so hunting down something like this actually took me about an hour to do, and it's something I enjoy. So in the unfortunate event any of you need something like that, hook me up. So I'm going to go straight into this. Now there's a lot of different weird things. Obviously he changed the video, starts without his promotion for the Ridge wallet. Would have been cool if he would have showed that his wallet was still intact after that. Right to it, show you the land features because that's what you're here to see and to know where he crashed. Okay, so there he is headed out over the town here. That's the last scene we see before his engine quits. But I know based off of a shot right over here. Of course, this is him taking off from Wimpat. There we go, right there. So you see this town right here. You see these ponds, treatment, whatever. Now, this particular path, there's Car Rat, but Mammoth Springs. So if we look in here, and you know, I do live in Nashville. My dad born in San Luis Obispo. I love this area, Solvang and Ranch here, that I visit every time I'm in California. I love this area. But so we go right over here to Mission Hills, and there you have it, right? Those treatment ponds. If we were looking right there on my cursor, you know, hey, we could argue that, you know, it's somewhat out of the way, but he's avoiding the Air Force Base airspace, right? All right, so you'll see here in a moment the next feature that I'm going to show you, and I can see from seeing it right here already exactly where he crashed, and that's right here. There's those two bald-faced mountains and how I pinpointed that down so easy, and of course Soda Lakes. So watch this. There we go. So you see that Soda Lakes there? Off on that side, there's a valley here, and then that mountain range there. So if we go right here, you know, here's where he's at. This mountain range here that you're seeing, sort of the big valley, and that lake's out over there. So that's off of his left wing. You'll see that coincides with this mountain range here and these two ridges that he's running right over the top of here. And if you're wondering about the altitude, here's where he crashed. Here's the lookout use area. In this case, he had the parachute on already. He never planned to land the plane or attempt to. 4,542 foot. Here it is, that Figueroa Mountain lookout. Again, the pictures here from Google. You can see there's a lot of gnarly terrain, but there's also a lot of open areas. Keep watching. You'll see there's some Bald Mountain features here. Show you beyond any shadow of a doubt that's exactly where he's at throughout this process. So there's that ridge, the other ridge coming right off of that, right? This ridge here is about 9 miles from back here. This creek running through here, just again, so there's a secondary ridge, the major ridge, the secondary ridge that bleeds off by that lake. Let's look at that again, just to make sure that you're, you know, here's the creek in front of them. Here's that ridge, right? The secondary ridge that bleeds off by the lake. Okay? And, you know, so here's where he's at right here. In this video, that looks glidable. The highest point in these range areas being about 4,500, I would say he's easily up to 10, okay? Which is where you would typically skydive from. I got my start in aviation and fold-in parachutes. Might be why I would tend to parachute. You know, if he does a lot of paramotoring or whatever, could be a likelihood there, right? So that could be what makes him more likely. Now here, see, and he jumps out, and this plane turns. Now immediately here, you know, it wasn't a weight balance thing. He had that plane trimmed out, because if you watch, he is giving it some back and forth and looking around. The video's going to skip. And then whenever he jumps out, he's got it stable. He's got it where it wants it. And whenever he exits the plane, he releases it. It goes down. It was never trimmed to fly level, right? So it's taking a nosedive here. You can see this valley. And just to show y'all, this bald mountain here, this secondary ridge again on this side, this creek bends around this ways, and then back around here, making a horn or a head here, and then goes up this way. So looking at this right here, here's this hill. Right here by Water Canyon Campground, it bends up, makes this head, goes back this way. All right? So undeniably, no two ways about it. Like, that's exactly where he's at. So some of you that fly in the area will know a little bit better about the glide points and all that. Again, there's that ridge, the secondary ridge. You're going to see the airplane circle around and crash right here. Okay, now something else that I've heard, you know, in addition to him having the headset, maybe he didn't have the audio in the airplane and it was just for his video recording. He didn't call Mayday. He still flew VFR flight plan before he left, and then cancel it after he gets there via cell service. If you're going to fly over rugged terrain, it's a no-brainer. So putting the right precautions in place to where you don't have events like this is very wise, right? It's prudent judgment. So when are we talking to what he's going to get charged for? I really don't believe he's going to get charged unless it's disturbing the wreckage of an airplane, because he went there immediately to rig or unrig his system that he used to drain the fuel. That's my speculation. But what we do know that he did was he got his cameras, right? And that's how we have the footage from the tail and the wing and all that. He risked himself being in the wilderness, landing on a woody hillside with a cliff, to get that footage before going back down to this creek where his buddies picked him up. Now, obviously, if you were in a life or death survival mode, you would land in the creek or right on it, right? You wouldn't put yourself in the trees, which was a risky thing to do anyways. So here we go. Without water, if that was the case. But I'll show you right here why that really is not what happened. Probably more screenshots than you want to look at, but look at this right here. Now, go back on his video here and get this right here to 215, and you got to get it paused at just right second. I'll let you decide what that is. All right. So again, look right here, and I do all this to help understand. The plane's nose down a little bit and it's turning, and we're looking at these rocks right here along this bluff line, right? So this is back to just where did the plane go, and let's figure that out. Here's that hillside. You know, fourth, fifth, or dozenth reason why this is exactly what I'm telling you, where he's going with it. The location of the plane crash. Now the videos here that he's showing are not in sync. This and watching the airplane down there is not in the same place. So you see the airplane go by, the video from the airplane completely unsynced. He's a content creator, so there's the horn. The creek goes around there. You can see it's kind of mountainous, right? But you can also see a lot of flat space. And then I'll show you right behind him some fields that he had just crossed over to. Again, he's wearing a parachute. He did not at all intend on crash landing the airplane. He intended on jumping out. So here's all these rock cliffs. This is where that bald mountain canyon gets its name. So he is right here on this bald mountain, and the plane is circling. So we just saw it come over these cliffs, and that's where this rock face was coming out here. And then over this bald mountain, and it's a little hard to see. Of course, this is a summertime or a spring picture. Everything's green. It loops around. Okay, so it passes over these bald mountain tips, loops around, and then crashes. This is up, this is down. This is the bottom of that ravine, right? So it circles around here and crashes into the side of this ravine right here. I'll get a little bit closer. You can see some of these bare mountain juts. Of course, there's a lot of vegetation out on it, so you don't see as much, but that's where this Bald Mountain Canyon gets its name, this sort of bald mountain peak that you see in the video right here this time of the year. You don't have all the greenery around it, and obviously you've got the texture that you don't have with just the Google Maps, even not using Google Earth here. So, see, completely unsynced video from him and the plane, but here we go. You're gonna see, so there he is. All right, so you see this bald mountain here, right? And then you see this long leg here, and that's where I go with exactly where he crashed. Was it this longer leg? There's a little bit of a dip here, and this longer leg, and the secondary ridge that builds up and all comes down from there. It hooks a hard right, doesn't make it, even though it makes it across that little dip, it doesn't make it into that side of the ravine, and it crashes right there, which would be, again, so here's where we're looking at that. The draw kind of comes up in between these two ridges, and just so that you're seeing this, this is a ridge, this is the ridge here, the shadow, this creek bottom, and then that side of the mountain that's just pretty faced one directionally, right? So, or bare, I guess on the west side it would be. So here's where there's this dip in between these ridges, and his crash site would be right on this side in between these two ridges. So he landed somewhere close, but it wasn't that far of an out to the creek. Whenever he talks in the video and he's like, oh, I made it down this wash only to find a cliff, here's the cliff that he's talking about right here. So this thing, it drains out right here, and there's a cliff there to the floor below. He's trying to get out here because he knows of this road and trail, and this is where he's getting picked up, right? Now, this trail sort of ends here, but there's this campground, as you can see up here, more roads in and out of the area. Not to mention, prudence in an area like this is using all the survival equipment available to you, right? So we'll just keep watching this video for a second to show you his landing, you know, and the fact that he chose himself to, he had all the options available to him. He chose himself to land in sort of a wooded patch, although you can see what he did here was he overshot a little clearing where he was going to get back. And if we're looking up this draw, it's sideways, right? So if you can tilt that back, there's the bald face of that side of the mountain, the one-sided mountain right there, okay? He just overshot, just barely, this clearing here that he was attempting to land in, and landed in the trees on the other side, and that's because his airplane's right here. And he's trying to get to his airplane, of course, to get his video footage so that he can make that awesome Ridge Wallet promotional video, along with, of course, an epic YouTube video. So, there he is, actually crashed in the trees, makes his way all the way over to get to his airplane. Doesn't show, of course, his pulling the cameras off or changing anything on the airplane, not incriminating himself, right? But you know, there's a survival ideal that says, you know, okay, if you go to the plane whenever search and rescue come out, right, they're going to look uh, for the aircraft. It's going to be easier seen and all of that. So I could get moving towards the airplane if you feel like you're in that environment. Where the water jug would have went, if the water jug went in the airplane, and that's what he said, it wouldn't have went outside of there's no debris field here. Losing that water jug is not a reality. So it's just that, it was a lame excuse. But essentially then he moves away from the plane and he's getting somewhere. He's moving into the night and through the night. So he's trying to rendezvous. No doubt about it. And here we go. We're getting into my speculation a little bit, right? And you came for where exactly this plane crashed at. And so I just showed you the circling and all that in that last moment in. We're going to see a little bit of a glimpse here whenever he's moving around the airplane. Again, not worried about a fire because he was able to drain all of the gas out of it without a problem. And of course, here pulling his camera and cameras off of the airplane. A little bit of the wreckage there. And here you can see, the black hose running from this wing. Here's the strut. That is positively a black hose running down that strut into the airplane wing. What's up with those hose? So it's a hose clamp, a cable. I'll show you here a couple screenshots. If you look at this right here, not sure what hose that is, but inside the cockpit, just like there's a hose going up this side, there's a hose over here. I would say that's a siphon deal, and he knew it was going to land and not burn because he had siphoned all the fuel out of it, allowed it to drain out in this process. So he was going to be landing there by it. Obviously didn't want to be at the site of a fire, and that's why he landed in the woods to be close to it rather than choosing the landing spot in the creek so that he didn't have that risk ahead of him, right? Now, if you look inside of the cockpit on a much earlier view, well, in here you can see there's the regular fuel line comes in and down through the cockpit. So, secondary gas line, in an old plane like this that, he could have purchased. So then see whenever he goes down that wash, that's on the other side of that creek, by the way. So there's this cliff and everything. He's trying to get to the bottom there. And that's why he pushed into the dark, which is not what you do in a survival instinct. He's pushing to get to the airplane, then pushed from the airplane to get out. And, all of that goes into it's unreasonable and unreasonable actions based on the situation, right? So, he gets out. Here he is kind of at that cliff. So that river's down there, and he's sort of at this ledge looking down. And as I showed you in Google Maps, with the crash plane going down right in here. This is that creek. Here's the Bald Mountains, right? And then you get to this point where there's a waterfall. It looks fairly gnarly, and then you can see the hill coming up straight away on this other side, and you can tell by the washout, the steepness of it, some of the rocks, exposed rocks, and that you see right here.
I wish upon nobody. I see the ravine down there that I'm trying to get to.
So he sees the ravine he's trying to get to.
Surrounded by bushes. Oh shit.
So here he is.
Another hour's gone by. Walking down the riverbed.
He said another hour has went by walking down the riverbed. There's water in here, and I'm sure that he saw that, could see that going for. But he's trying to get somewhere. If he's walking another area down another hour down the riverbed, let's see. I'm trying to scale back out to my mile. Yeah, so a mile is about 1.5 inches here. If that camp is over here, he's got 3 or 4 miles of hiking to do, and he gets down to all these roads, right? So again, there's a camp, actually a farm here, and that's why I say that, he actually, or no, I'm sorry, we're here. So where he actually would have gotten picked up, there's this crossing here, a campground, a building. I'm guessing it's a bathroom, all that sort of things there. But so anyways, if we would have looked down on this side of the mountain, just giving you for an example here to solving, the fact of the matter is this right here, he doesn't have to go to San Ynez. That was 12 miles, but once he clears this ridge, which looked quite a bit lower, right? So he's at 4,500 feet here. If he could have turned, he wasn't quite over this here and went this way. There's an endless amount of literally runway like places here, right? So that's that again puts us to his exact location for where he's at. And though he may have disturbed the wreckage in that, ultimately, if you intentionally ditch an airplane to skydive and know that you're not starting a fire, which if it didn't anyway, then you couldn't charge him for it. What do you get? It'd be interesting to know if this plane was even flyable, if he didn't just rig it up to get it up there and go crash a plane, right, to get the view. So maybe somewhat less intentionally, he didn't intend on hurting or harming anyone. And it blew up quite a bit bigger than he intended it to, at least from all the naysayers. And you see that by the way that he's cut down his video, cut out all the dramatization of it in the forehand. It was obviously a video that was produced. He had the footage all at once whenever he, sat down and after a crash and did the ridge wallet and his buddy's ashes and all that. And it was a very choreographed video, right? He come back, edited it, pieced it in. And that, more than anything, is what made it suspicious. And of course, all that's gone now. So, yep, here it is again. I'll ping this valley here in case. Really, it's Bonanza Schoolhouse Camp. If you can get there, it's this valley off the right. And so, literally, that building is a schoolhouse. Obviously, back in the day, and, here's a great field for you. Just for some examples, this was actually, I wouldn't say a community area, obviously, but there was some people that made their livelihood out here and lived here. Hard to tell what these slopes are along this creek bed. Obviously, okay, Taylor craft like this, very short, slow landings. And somebody like, Trent Palmer, my favorite YouTuber, would come in here and play and land in 5 spots along there, probably, right? He may not have had the confidence to do that and afraid of, a bad landing, a head injury, something like that. Again, if he's got the parachute on before he flies, my doubts are that he would even try to land if he could, right? His intent here, if I give him the benefit of the doubt and say this was all accident, no radio calls, no beforehand preparation whenever it comes to his safety, like a flight plan. And then, so yeah, no calls for help if he didn't have radio, no handheld radio, no satellite radio. And there you have it. He's back in the wilderness, gets picked up by some buddies. We could go on a little bit here. I wanted to make a short video. But
you can hear that. But you can hear a cow. I can hear a cow. I literally just went onto my knees.
You can see the size of this valley is very landable. And how you could come down this valley is just there was suitable landing places. All there is to it.
Oh my God.
So he gets here to this road in the creek, and you can see he's on He's on a road here.
Past the point of even saying I'm exhausted. But I saw a cow. And that was cool.
Which is fine. It's just pretty obvious he's pushing through, and even being exhausted and tired and everything, he's pushing through to get somewhere.
Oh my God.
The creek was one, down to the road, and to where his buddies would pick him up.
Gotta keep moving.
Why would you keep moving, right, in a survival scenario, besides, you know, if you didn't think you were getting picked up?
How you doing? Oh my gosh. Holy shit. Oh my gosh. Hi. How you doing, man? I had an engine out in the mountains, and there was nowhere to land. I always fly with a parachute, and I'm like, I can either jump right now or take the chance of landing this thing, and I'm out. And then as soon as I opened the canopy and I'm under parachute, the plane came back around and almost hit me. You have no idea how far back we are. You have no clue. Yeah. I'm good.
So the element of surprise on the other party was not his plane crash. Okay, so go back here to 12:30 on his current video. That's now 12 minutes and 53 seconds. The element of surprise there wasn't the plane crash or any of that. He's playing that up and drinking out of a water jug as if he's dying for water right now. The sound of his voice, but their element of surprise was how far back he was. And that's why I said I think he intended on ditching the plane miles closer, and they were miles further down that creek whenever they got to him than they had expected.
Holy shit.
Where were you at?
6, 7,
right?
8 miles already. Just in the river. I was probably 5 miles up in the hills. I almost fell off a cliff. I literally was just like, all right.
So here's another thing. Like, look at the shoes that these guys are wearing. They're not hikers. They're for sure not the ranchers. Okay.
Saw fresh tracks in the car, and I'm like, how many?
Or the
get to that
farmers.
river? And then I saw water. I started crying.
People back in here would be ranchers. There's cows, whatever. So, guys, that's my explanation. Hey, I am trying to build a YouTube channel the right way. I travel regionally for business to get places in a small plane. So I try to share a lot of those adventures as well as just adventures in my life with you. If that's something you'll like, please check out some of the other videos on my channel. Give them a like, a subscribe. I really appreciate it and look forward to seeing you down the road here. Stay safe and don't jump out of your airplane.